Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Khulud Fawzi Omar Abdulaziz Tarapolsi, but you can call me Miss K, and I'm the owner and artist behind craftyarab.com. This blog and website offers educational tools for parents, caregivers, and teachers to teach about the Arab world and Muslim culture. There are over 700 crafts, tutorials, recipes, booklets, all kinds of fun resources and activities that you can find on craftyarab.com. Also, 300, a little bit more than that actually, of those crafts have to do with Ramadan because 10 years ago, my daughters and I decided that for Ramadan, we were going to have a challenge and create a craft a day for the full entire month. This is our 11th year of doing this, and we've invited some guest bloggers and other parents to come and share their resources for Ramadan activities. So please visit and support them. We also have a few other activities that we did ourselves this year that are super fun, including adjusting to our times. This little mask clip that would fit on the back of a hijab for those that cannot put the mask on their ears in the little mask clip, and it says Allah on it. I have to figure out which way for the camera. Made out of perler beads. So we show how to make this on the blog. We also get super fun books to talk about and review, and this was a recent review that we had for a book where we made a grape leaf art. Isn't that beautiful? Out of yarn. So using things around your house, or that might not cost very much money, you can find ways to celebrate Ramadan around your home, and we show you that. A few other things a Crafty Arab does is I do provide educational tools to introduce children to the Arabic language, such as the poster behind me, the alphabet poster. There's also a color poster, and I also have a coloring book that opens in the correct Arabic direction. That also includes an image of the poster on the front and back, a resource guide for parents to help with the letters. One of the other fun things we make are flashcards and game cards that parents can use of all the letters, which look like this. This is one of the game cards of the animal qert and the letter, and then it's written on the back and a little bit of information on the cards. You get a little alphabet, some fun games to play, and all kinds of fun things on a Crafty Arab. So please do stop by. But today I am thrilled that the Jersey City Free Public Library asked me to talk about one of my crafts and to show you guys how to make it. So we picked this beautiful Eid plate. We're going to talk about what Eid is in just a second, but I love that you can actually hang it and use as a decoration. What I also love more than anything is that it's reduce, reuse, recycle, because this is a paper plate that we had left over from a party, and we decided, let's see what other uses we have for this rather than it going into the landfill. So we're using it as a paper plate. In a little bit, I'll show you a few more other ideas for uses of paper plates rather than, again, putting them in the garbage. So we'll talk about paper plates in just a second. But first, I want to talk about Eid. E-I-D. What does that mean? Eid in Arabic means festival or holiday. What a great word to know. Eid is how it's pronounced, and it also covers all kinds of festivals and holidays. So for Mother's Day, which is coming up, we say Eid al-Umm, Mother's Day. For Father's Day, we say Eid al-Ab. We also say Eid in birthday. So we say Eid Milad, which is birthday. So Eid Milad Saeed is happy birthday. There's also Eid in Christmas in Arabic. Eid al-Milad, birth, the the birth. So that is also another way that Eid is used. In the Muslim culture, in Muslim world, Eid represents one of two major holidays that occur in various times. We're getting ready for one of them that's coming up at the end of Ramadan. That is Eid al-Fitr, and that will be 2 or 3 days, maybe a few more for some people, to celebrate the end of Ramadan, which is the holy month of fasting and self-reflection. So that is one of the Eids, but there's also the big Eid, which is Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha occurs this year for 2021. I believe it will occur July 20th or 19th. Because Islam is based on a lunar calendar, the days might shift for some people. So we always want to check a few resources to make sure what days it actually is for the Georgian calendar, but it's going to fall around there. And Eid al-Adha is a festival of sacrifice. That's what that means in Arabic. And it is a festival that occurs after Muslims who are able to complete the pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia and complete their pilgrimage. And at the end of the pilgrimage, there's a festival to celebrate this. It also represents, because it's called the Festival of Sacrifice, the story of, in the Quran and also, of course, in other religious books, of Prophet Ibrahim, Sayyidina wa Salma, who almost sacrificed his son and then was given an animal instead to sacrifice instead of his son. So Muslims around the world honor that sacrifice by also slaughtering an animal if they're able to, and sharing that food and resources with their community in honor of that special day. So Eid al-Adha will occur a little bit later in about a week or so. We are in the last 10 days of Ramadan, which are the most holy and special, will be Eid al-Fitr. So let's make this plate. We'll show you how to do it here in just a second. I'm going to set this aside right here so you can see it in just a minute when I compare. I'm going to show you my craft basket. I love to make craft baskets. What's a craft basket? Well, if I'm getting ready to craft or I am looking up something that will be super fun for the kids, I look up the craft. For example, this Eid decorative plate, which is also on at craftyarab.com if you'd like it up, comes with a supply list. So I write down the supply list for the kids and then I give them a basket and then they run around the house and look for those items. Because most of the time, most of the stuff is not all in one place. For example, newspapers, paper plates might be in different parts of the house. So I part them down on the list. The kids go down and write and pick up everything and put it in their craft basket. And then when we're ready to craft, everything is in the basket. So let us look what's in our craft basket this morning. We have newspaper, of course. It's always good to lay down newspaper when you work. I have been an artist for many, many, many years. We won't say how many. And I still lay down newspapers because art is messy and it should be messy. So let's get ready for it and just lay down some newspapers. So we have some newspapers in our basket. Oh, we have a paper plate in our basket. I love buying these square paper plates when I have parties at my house because I feel you can put more food on them. That's just a personal opinion. And then afterwards, they make beautiful square canvases for kids' artwork. I buy these at my local dollar store. I'm pretty sure they're not very expensive. And they come in different sizes. So I can have big ones and I can have smaller ones. And I'll show you the different size in just a second. So paper plates. We got our newspaper, we got our paper plate. Oh, a paint palette. It's always good to have, if you don't have a paint palette that looks like this for you to put the paint in, maybe you use another paper plate or a plate that you don't really care about, that might be maybe one of that you don't use anymore, so that you can have the paint to dip into, because it's much easier than trying to dip it into the bottle. So a paint palette. Speaking of paint palette, what are we going to put inside? We need paint. Now, I said I was going to show you this again, which is why I kept it close, because we did different colors here than what I picked today. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that for just a second. For this one, it's got blue, yellow, red. So azraq, blue, yellow, asfar, red, ahmar. And I kind of like these three colors together. I thought they look really, really beautiful. And I love the polka dots. I thought that really added kind of a confetti look, you know, that extra festive party. But we're making a different paper plate today, and I wanted to show you guys that it's okay to do variety. And if you don't have azraq, asfar, ahmar around, it's okay to use different colors. So today I pulled out ahmar. I kept that because I really like the red. Portugal, orange, and asfar, yellow. I kept that too, right? So it looks like I just kind of changed out the blue, azraq, for the orange, Portugal. So these three colors I kind of felt were warm colors in the rainbow, so I wanted my plate this time to be a little bit warm. They're all from Plaid Folk Art, so beautiful acrylic paints, great with kids because they wash off very easily. So paints, feel free to use others, but I do like to use acrylic because they're easy to clean off. What else do we have in our craft basket? Oh, what are we going to do with paint if we don't have a paintbrush? Yes, we definitely need a paintbrush to paint with. So these are nice and wide because we have a lot of space to cover. And they, you can have just one with a little bit of water so you can clean it between, but I went ahead and grabbed three just because I'm doing this video and I want it to be super quick rather than wait for it, the paintbrush to dry between paintings, between colors. So, but just if you just have one with a water cup, and of course when you're painting, make sure to have paper towels around for drying the paintbrushes in between. It'll be okay to have just one. And then the last at the bottom of my craft basket is blue paint. Blue paint. I'm still thinking about that blue paint. I think I missed the blue paint. Maybe I'll have to bring it back. And blue painter's tape and scissors, of course, to cut the tape. Now, it's a very, very good idea when you are using the blue tape to make sure that your edges are straight when you're cutting. So try not to cut at an angle or maybe zigzaggy. I have a really bad habit of tearing the blue tape, which is also not a very good thing to do. So I have to break that habit. So what you want to try to do is when you cut the blue tape, here I'll just cut one for you so you can see it, is just try to cut it as straight, the line as straight as possible. So just go all the way across. I'll do one more. I like to stick my finger on the tape to hold it and then stick a finger underneath, and then that way I don't lose the tape when it falls. See how fun that is? And then you have tape in your fingers. And you just keep going, and this is a super easy way to cut the tape into small pieces if you'd like. So we need blue painter's tape and scissors. Set my scissors right here for just a second. And these blue pieces of tape that I just cut, and I don't need at this exact second, but I will in just a second because I will show you guys in just a moment, because I will show you guys why I'm using them. So what we'd like to do first is lay down our newspaper. Make sure we do not make a mess because I'm sure I will make a mess. Then we get our canvas, our paper plate, and what we want to do is cut a longish piece of blue tape. And it's okay if you need to add more to it. This is just to kind of give us an idea of where to lay out the first piece of tape. So here's my paper plate, and then I cut out what I think about the length of the E is. That might be about 5 inches or so. And I'm just gonna put it on the plate right on the outer edge of the inner square there. Okay, so just as a reminder, I'm making this right here, the E, and then going across. And I just want to make sure, see here, I didn't leave very much room between here and here. So I shifted my E over just a tiny bit on this one. And now for my sides, what I can do is, this is really nice because I can make this a certain size, and then later I can add it to here. I can add it to the edge of the P here so it goes across, or if I wanted the letter to be a little shorter, if I cut off too much, I just go overlap a bit and make the top of the E a little shorter there. So then I just keep adding about the same length underneath to create the rest of my E. At the bottom there. And you can see that while these are even, if I show you closely, you can see this one's about halfway, this one's over here, and this one's over here. So they're not exactly lined up, but I lined them up here, okay? So we have our first letter, E. Now for the I, you will notice that I used a lowercase, my anger, a lowercase letter here and an uppercase, and then an uppercase again. In Arabic calligraphy, it's very common to move letters around and play around with the design until you come up with something that kind of works for you. It's okay. People have been doing it for centuries. And I'm going to show you another design that does that here in a little bit. So you, if you would like, can go ahead and make your I an uppercase, okay? I wanted to go ahead and make it a lower so I have a little bit more color showing in between. Now, I'm not a fan of where the dot is, and this I feels a little short. I need to make a little bit more blue here. So all I need to do is just bring an extra piece. And look at that. I just made this longer. Super easy to do. Another thing that you can do if you are wanting to make sure that all of these line up is just to take the blue tape and lay it on the next letter, lay it down while you haven't cut it yet. And then you can see where your line ends and then cut it off the roll. So you have options. There's other things that you can try. And the whole point of making art is to experiment. So here's line, kind of, sort of. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's the whole point of art. Now, look at my D, Dad. It goes round. We've had it pretty easy so far with all of these straight lines, right? But now we have to curve. How are we going to make this straight tape curve? So what we need to do is we need to cut small pieces. So they should be about this big. I've just cut a few to show you what they look like. I'm going to put them on my fingers here so you can get the various sizes. I would say don't go over 2 inches, maybe about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches, an inch. I'm just kind of making up numbers because it's really just kind of eyeball, just a little bit of a square. And what you want to do is you want to put the first one down, and then the next one you're going to not put it on as straight. So here's the first one I put down, and I made it as straight as I could with the top of the main part of the letter here by going across. But now I'm going to start curving my letter by adding pieces that overlap diagonally. So here's my main letter, and then here is the first one that goes across perfectly. But do you see here, I've made the points touch, but then I overlapped in a diagonal fashion. So I'm going to show you how to do the next one. See if I can do it backwards. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to put my point of the one that I'm adding to the point of here, make sure that it touches. Set that down. And then curve it a tiny bit so that it overlaps. So do you see how I have this curve? Now the easiest thing to do is to go from the bottom and then start overlapping them so that they connect in the middle, because it is a curved middle. And then you can also, because the beauty of blue tape is that you can remove it and keep adjusting and adding it, is if your D is looking a little wonky, take off the tape and try again. So see, I've added the bottom part of the D here. The first one goes right across, similar to the bottom of my main part of my letter there. But then here I start, you can see the overlap. I start curving so that these two can connect. It's a little easier to do on the table, I must say, which is why I apologize that you can't see this part, but just to show you, just super quickly, here is my last piece. Let me show you, I'll put it on. I have 2 pieces connecting here that need to be connected, I mean, and then I just add, oh, my fingers are sticking to the tape, and then I just add, make sure these 2 points are connecting to each other, just to cover that, and then I just add it on. So now we have this beautiful curve and all these straight lines created with our blue tape so that we have negative and positive space. We're going to paint the positive space, and then we're going to remove the tape to create a negative space of the white of the plate that will be left. It's going to be so beautiful. So far, we have been talking about so many of elements of art. We have talked about color. We're going to be doing all of the different colors. We've talked about form, the fact that I love paper plates because, you know, they have this shape and form that's unusual to a canvas. We talked about line, creating our straight and curved line. Shape, definitely working with a square and the shape of our letters. Space, we're going to be doing positive and negative space. Texture, we're going to be accomplishing that with the type of paint we're going to be putting on and how much and how thick it's going to be, which of course then adds to the value. The more paint we add, the darker it'll be. I'll show you here in just a second. Let's start with our red, with our ahmar. Got my paintbrush, I've got my canvas. Please set your canvas down on the newspaper to do this. I'm just doing this to show you guys what it looks like, but I might actually have to set mine down because it's a little hard to paint in the air. But I have my red. You can see my ahmar. I just added a little bit to the tip of my paintbrush there. And then I'm just going to go across in sweeping lines across the top of the plate to create this beautiful horizon lines all the way across. And I'm going to try to go across and not stop. It's okay if you end up stopping, but if you end up stopping, see how it creates these little lines there? And if you like those, you can add them. I'm just going to keep across like that. And like I said, it's much easier to paint when you are looking down at your artwork rather than holding it up. So excuse me while I just quickly paint the top of this plate with the red, the ahmar. But I did want to show you that when I get to the part with the blue tape here, that I just went ahead and just painted over it. So it's okay if you get the paint on the blue tape. Okay, to get the little parts in between, you can just kind of squiggle your brush in between there. But when we pull the tape off, you'll see that it really is okay. The edges are not completely painted. So that was our ahmar. So I'm going to set my paintbrush aside on all these fabulous napkins and paper plates I managed, paper towels I managed to grab to help with this mess. Art is messy. I love it. I love making messes. It's the whole process of learning, of creating, of experimenting, of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And you need a mess for that. So now we're going to the burtuqal, the orange. I'm going to dip my paintbrush in this beautiful, oh my gosh, it's so lovely, nice and thick orange. And again, just going across side to side, getting all that beautiful paint in there. And if I like this spot is a little hard for me to go across on, then I can go ahead and add the paint, but then go in and still create those brush lines that are going across like that. Okay. So again, excuse me for just 2 minutes. Is it maybe less than 2 minutes actually? I'm not going to say 2 seconds because that seems too short. Two. So let me just, I want to make sure I get all this burtuqal in between letters. And oh my gosh, this is so lovely. So here's my burtuqal. And all I'm doing when I had it on the table was just kind of going across and making sure that it was just across side by side. Now I have my ahmar, red. I have my orange, burtuqal. Now we're going to add the asfar, the yellow. I'm going to add nice gobs of yellow to my brush. And again, at this point, you guys should be expert painters, I'm pretty sure, at this, because you've already done the other colors and now you're at the yellow, which is the final color. So you're like, oh, I can do this. I can go side to side and make sure that the colors get in between the letters there. And it's okay if some of it swills over. I got some on my fingers because I was holding it from on the paint side. Like I said, this acrylic is fantastic because it washes off. So it's okay if you get it on your fingers. Don't get it on clothes. It does not wash off clothes. Maybe I should have started with that. Yeah, it's a paint, so it'll stay on clothes. But fingers, faces, other parts of bodies, arms, anywhere else you might get this paint, it's a likelihood that you will get it off. Okay, so now some of my orange smudged when I put my finger on it, which is great because then you can just fix it. Now you can see all of my colors have been added. Beautiful colors, the ahmar, the top, the red, orange, portugal in the middle, and the yellow, asfar at the bottom there. Now, this is the hardest part for me because I have a really hard time waiting. We have to wait. It is best if you put this aside for a few hours, really overnight, to let it kind of soak in. But it's very hard to do. I feel you. I feel you, because you just want to tear that blue tape off and see your masterpiece. But you really have to wait for the paint to dry. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and I want to talk to you just a little bit about some other Eid crafts that you can make, and other crafts that you can make with paper plates, as I mentioned. I love the small paper plates too. Look at these. How cute is this one here? Again, this one ended up, I think, in the grass lawn after a party. It's all messed up on the back, but the top was fine. I was like, oh, well, I can still maybe put candy or some wrapper item at a party that, you know, wouldn't expose it to food, and maybe decorate it. So I did. I went and found brads. These are called brads, these little round little points here at the bottom that are holding the sequence rounds. And brads at the front, you can get beautiful design, and at the back just look like this. Basically look like a reverse, I would say maybe staple. And brads will hold two items together. So here we have sequence, and then we have a paper plate. So I poked a hole, put the brad through the sequence and then through the paper plate, and then closed it, fastened it on the back. And then after that, I added with stickers the words Eid, here's the word that we learned today, and Mubarak, which means blessed. So this basically said blessed Eid, which is a saying that Muslims say to each other at Eid, to each other when they leave the mosque or call each other and say Eid Mubarak, and everybody says Eid Mubarak. So it's a very festive and happy greeting that you give each other during the holidays. And so I put it on the paper plate with some brads and thought it was a really fun way to reduce, reuse, recycle a paper plate that could have ended up in a landfill. And just to show you the brads themselves, this was actually originally on a card, but I just took it off just to show you what the brads, you could do other things with the brads too. Here I actually took the brads and I wrote the word Eid with them. So you can see all the little, and like I said, this, I placed this on a card for the craft, and then see the back of it. It's just, I poked all those little holes to actually write the letters. Then you put them in and fasten them. And you can use brads in such fun little ways. So when you're in the craft section, look for brads. Paper plates have so many other uses. This is a fun one, same size as the one we just finished, where I helped my daughter cut out the design, and then we kept this mosque mesjid in Arabic. In the middle, we cut that out with an X-Acto. I'm a firm believer in children's using X-Acto early on with adult supervision. It's a great tool to learn how to cut precise, funny little lines that you wouldn't be able to get into with scissors. And it's a great tool for them to learn. And if you give them adult supervision, it gives them confidence to work with other tools and to try new things. And my art teacher used to say, and if you don't make it as an artist, you can always go into surgery. So there is that. So this is an X-Acto cutout that we made of the mosque. And then I placed a sheet of contact paper, which you can get at most kitchen aisles in the stores, or maybe even in your own kitchen. I placed a piece of contact paper, little bits bigger than the cutout, underneath. And then my daughter added little tiny pieces of tissue that she cut out, tissue decorative that you decorate for gifts, to make all this beautiful color designs. And then we added a second piece of contact paper on top. I'm going to show you guys a close-up here so you can see the, oops, think it's a little too bright for it. Oh, there it is. So you can see the contact paper is just a little bit bigger on both sides to hold that tissue in there. But it leaves a beautiful stained glass design if you leave it in your window. So beautiful window, sun catchers. You can also poke holes into paper plates and give a child yarn and let them put, you know, almost like a sewing for fine motor skills. Go in and out with the yarn to create designs. This is a 8-point star. It's called a katham in Arabic. So this was a fun project because we had to figure out where the 4 points were on the paper plates to create, and then also pull out a ruler and math and steam and all that fun tools to figure out where the other 4 points were, and then poke the holes, and then started playing around with yarn to create this beautiful katham design on a paper plate. And this is the back of it, which is not so lovely, but it's fun to learn which you know, how the the yarn goes in this way and it comes out this way, and how you're going to create the design. And it's a lot of thinking and a lot of trying to figure it out. So crafts like these are really great to do with kids because they're not just fun, but they're very educational. And of course, I don't just use paper plates. If you look at my blog, I am a firm believer in looking around for everything else that's around you to use. My daughters sell Girl Scout cookies once a year, and these are the boxes that the cookies come in. For those that buy Girl Scout cookies, you'll recognize the tag along sign there. And we cut them out, and we cut the cardboard boxes into the shape of the letters. So here's the E, the I, and the D. And I glued on a little bit of yarn, just like the yarn that was in the katham design, and also the yarn that was used for putting our plate to create it as to hang with. And I added it here, and then we just used kitchen foil from the kitchen cabinets and covered it with the letters and created these beautiful letters. I added a little bit to help my daughter make it balance, a little bit of a stand at the back. And again, we had to figure out math and how big the stand is. When it's on the mantle, it will actually balance so that the letters stand up. Very beautiful decorating that you can add to your home for very, very few resources. If you do end up buying resources, like we bought this little tiny canvas at the dollar store. I love the dollar store because they have little cute, adorable canvases that you can just hold in your hand. This one actually says the word, Arabic word for God, Allah. So here's the top, the first letter, and then here's the rest of the letters here. It's in the Kufic design, which is a form of Islamic calligraphy that uses square calligraphy. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where artists will move the letters around. Technically, this letter here should be right here, but the artist moves it around to help with the design and to make it look more aesthetically pleasing. And this one, we just took the square canvas from the dollar store and again used painter's tape, just regular painter's tape, and placed it in this design so that we could then paint over it. Same exact technique that we just used on the plate, going across in a horizontal fashion. And then afterwards, took the paint off for this beautiful Kufic inspired calligraphy design. Other resources that we love to look around the house, here's more confetti paper that we cut up and put on a piece of double-sided tape. We just added to this gift bag that we made. But interestingly enough, this Eid sign that is on here is made from eggs. That's right, eggs that you eat. Muslims eat a lot of eggs during Ramadan. Those who are able to. Eggs are super easy to make in all kinds of different ways. And they provide a lot of protein for people that have to go without food for a long period of time. So we ate a lot of eggs, and I had a lot of eggshells. And I thought, I wonder if I can use these eggshells for something. Well, yes, you can use eggshells in art. So we cut out the letters just out of cardboard, just like we did with the tag-along boxes, but in a much smaller fashion, and then glued the eggshells onto it and used an oil-based paint. This is all on the blog, but it's just fun for people to look around their house and find things to use that they normally would not have, or that they normally have, such as this beautiful white candle that we had sitting around, and we added Happy Eid to it with wax paper from our kitchen. Again, using resources that we had, we painted on wax paper and then added it to the candle with a heat source. So how to do this is also on the blog, but using wax paper or something that you don't buy from the craft store is a great way for kids to think about other resources that they have around them, so that later on, if they have jobs or families or anything, they're not thinking of things inside the box. They are very open to looking around them and coming up with other solutions, such as the one on my head. A girlfriend of mine loves Keurig cups, the Keurig Coffee Company. She had a lot of these Keurig cups left over, Keurig pods, I believe they're called. And I was just like, I wonder if there's a way that we can save a few of them from the landfill. Well, of course there is. I saved them from her kitchen, brought them home, painted them red with acrylic paint, and added a little ribbon at the bottom and a little bit of embroidery thread, just yellow asfar embroidery thread that I turned into a little tassel, hooked a little hole. You can see the little Keurig symbol there in the middle. The one on my head, I put onto a headband so I can wear it. But this one, I added a little piece of paper at the bottom that says Eid Mubarak, just like our paper plate that we had earlier. But then I also added a little bit of money and change for Eid favors to give out at the party. You can see, I wanted to show you that this is another way that Eid Mubarak is written. And it also is not written in a very traditional way. You have letters up above and below, and you really kind of have to understand how the words are said in a sentence, or what they look like, to understand how they're written in this way. But that it's okay to play around with the letters and let kids move things around just to kind of make it work. So look around. Keurig cups. Of course, Eid is announced with drumming. This is a darbuka, which is a Arabic drum that we made out of paper plates. Paper cups. You have paper plates, you have paper cups, all kinds of things that you can use in your kitchen cup. This is a cup that you could just use to drink. We taped two of them together, used masking tape, and created a darbuka to announce Eid. So let's check on our plate that we made earlier. And unfortunately, it still looks a little shiny. So what I'm going to do is I will just show you how I made the hanging. And then we'll see if that adds a little bit of time. But I'm worried about taking off the blue paint if it's just a little shiny. So to add the holes so that we can hang this one beautiful, beautiful Eid sign in our kitchen, I just add the hole punch. And there's one hole. And I just go to the other side and I go maybe about right there. There's my second hole, my hole punch. Then I take my baker's twine or yarn or any kind of string that you might have, and just cut off about an arm to arm length, maybe one arm length. And then let me see if I can show this. Yes, I can. Okay, perfect. So then you just put the string in. And put the string in the other side so we can tie it in the back. Now I have my two strings with each other. So I'm going to put the two ends together like this. And then I'm going to loop them, make a little loop. See my little loop? And then put the ends back through the loop. And then this gives me a nice little knot. Make the knot go up a little higher. There we go. And that gives me a little knot. And now, plate is up. I'm going to see if I can just get off. That yellow does not look good. Okay, if I could just get off. No, it's coming off in my finger. Okay, so this is why I say wait a little bit and why I made up a backup plate. Yes, I did. So I was worried that this one would be a little wet, which it is. You really should wait because I'm worried that if I unpeel it, I can already see it happening here. More of it will come off on my fingers than the plate. But this is one where we took the blue paint. I keep saying blue paint. Blue tape off. And look how beautiful that is. MashaAllah. MashaAllah is when you give something praise, and it's a form of protection that you place on it. So this is our creation that we made, very similar to what this one will look like. You can see they look very similar once we take our blue tape off, which I'm going to do in a little bit once that one dries, which you should also wait for yours to dry. But here's our beautiful Eid decorative paper plate that you can find on craftyarab.com, along with all of our Arabic educational resources and super fun crafts that we showed you today. So please stop by, and shukran, shukran, shukran. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the Jersey City Free Public Library for hosting a Crafty Arab today and letting me come on and make this beautiful Eid plate for you guys. Eid Mubarak.